let's get started. Maybe what we can do is just introduce, the panel can introduce yourselves, who you are, what you do, what company you work with, and then we can start the conversation.
Hello, my name is Becky Tower. I'm a character animator at Pixar. That was quick. I'm Luna Ray. I'm a fashion environmentalist. I work with the United Nations on climate action. I also speak with the New York Stock Exchange when it comes to social, environmental impact investing. So I'm really, really super glad to be here and meet all of you.
Hi, I'm Rachel Franklin. I work for Electronic Arts. I've made video games for decades, and I run a group called Positive Play at EA.
And if anybody has any questions as we have the conversation, raise your hand and we can get questions as we go. So Rachel, why don't you start? Tell us a little bit about how you got into your field and what are some of the things that you do on a day-to-day basis? And one of the things that the kids always ask is, what does it look like when I am doing that job, right? So maybe share a little bit about that.
Yeah, so, well, I'll start at the start. When I was young, I really loved film, I loved entertainment, but I also had a knack for computers. I thought they were really cool. And at the time, technology and entertainment wasn't yet as kind of integrated as it is now. And so I went to school for computer science and math, but I always loved entertainment and film and things like that, so I would take as many classes as I could in those kinds of fields. And then when I graduated and throughout the next many years, I was always in interactive entertainment. So I worked at Activision, which is a game studio. I worked for a cloud gaming company, so that means it like streams and you can play things on a tablet that you wouldn't normally be able to play. I worked for Electronic Arts previous to this, and I ran a studio called Maxis where we launched The Sims. The Sims 4 I was the executive producer for that, and so I love The Sims. And then I left to go to Facebook for a bit, where I ran social virtual reality applications. So this was how do people connect and get to know one another and interact, but in a virtual reality headset. And so this all led me to my current role, because with all of this interactive entertainment and knowing how to make characters and avatars and environments, but also kind of having a glimpse of how we might be interacting with each other in 10 or 15 or 20 years, where we're kind of being virtual is just as natural as being in person. I realized that people aren't always great to each other, right? I don't know if any of you have played multiplayer games and had a feeling that, hey, I don't really feel like I belong here, somebody's being mean to me. Why don't I see a character that actually looks like me? And so, so I came back to EA and I started a group called Positive Play. And the idea is that you have a right to have a safe and fair and welcoming experience every time you play a game. And so this is not to be the, game police or anything like that, but it's to make sure that everybody has a fair experience, that you have a right to be able to enjoy your video games. So that's what I do now. And on a daily basis, it's a little bit different because I'm basically kind of running a startup team, like a little tiny team of about 20, 25 people inside of a really big company. So whereas I would normally be like, if I had a 300-person team, it's more about like making sure people know kind of what's important and are they happy and are they in the right groups. This I get to be really hands-on thinking about what are we making, what's going to be important to people who play games. So I spend a lot of time in meetings, but thinking and talking.
Does anybody have any questions about what Rachel just shared?
Yeah, so you're talking about the group, kind of like what do we do in the positive play group? So we do a number of things. The question was like, are we just on the sidelines, or like how are we doing this? Is it like oversight? So a little bit, we're watching what's going on, right? We're thinking, hey, is the game community happy? If not, like why? Are they reporting a lot of people because people are not being cool? But then we actually work with tools to try to fix that. So I don't know if you try to type something in a text box and you try to type something that might not be a great word and it turns it into like asterisks, or it says you can't type that kind of thing. So there's tech for that. Yeah, this is a great question. So we build the moderation strategy. And then we work with the technology teams and we work with the game teams, because every game is different. What I can say in a Battlefield shooter game is going to be very different than what I say in The Sims. And so we have to be careful that we're respectful. So we basically have the business strategy and the rules for what you can and can't do, but also supporting players and our development team.
Thank you. Well, I wish I was a gamer, but I'm not. That's true. So how did I get into fashion? Now, that's a very interesting story. It takes me way back. I had a lot of peer pressure when I was in school, and at that point, everyone was taking up science because science was, considered to be the top subject. So you had like physics, chemistry, math, and biology. I was not very good in math. I never was very good at math. I was good in, like when you talk about pure arithmetic, I was good in geometry. I was not very good at solving or balancing equations. But then as we kind of progressed and we started getting into calculus, I was like, this is really not my scene. But then I had my friends getting into it, and I really wanted to be a part of that. And you had two career options at that point. You could become a doctor or an engineer. And to become a doctor or an engineer, you needed to have a science background. So I decided to pursue it. It was my mother who came by and said, you know what, you really need to look into what you're good at. And I was like, I don't know what I'm good at. But things that I was good at was so easy for me that I didn't even look at it. But she was like, so what is it that you're not good at? I was like, I'm not good at math. And she's like, why do you want to do this then? So she told me to get into arts. And I was like, I'm going to lose my friends. But I did take up fashion. And at that time, it was something very, very new. It was started by the government. I got in. It was all India. You had just 30 students. I got in. I was really happy. I won the Best Design Collection Award. That took me to do my master's in Paris. And I got to work with some really beautiful names like Dior and John Galliano, and seeing how they kind of performed, and working with couture, working with everything that they had in the in-house. There were a few things that really got me in the industry, and that was especially when you spoke about the luxury industry, the way they used fur. Now we're talking way back in 2000, because the fur was brought in by trucks, and all the animals were dyed in various colors, but the skins were really disrespected. They were kind of just thrown into these rooms, and you would bring them out and work on them and then chuck them back. And I was like, I love animals. I mean, who doesn't, right? And you would be like, why would something so innocent be actually sacrificed for something that we wear? So that was the first turning point. Then I got back to India and I worked with a corporate, Levi's. And the thing is with these corporates is that they outsource a lot of their production. So I decided to go and see how denim was made. Now everyone is wearing jeans. Now you've got your jeans, which is torn, right? Now do you know how that's done? So how that's done is where you get your denim and it's kind of pulled on these big balloons. It's in an enclosed room where you have like these kids who work using sandpaper that keeps scraping it till you get these frayed, you get the frayed marks, and then it's put into these big boilers with like sandstone, and then you get the ripped effect. What happens is that when you're working in a closed room, you have a lot of fiber that's generated because of the scraping of the fabric. And this would contribute to occupational lung disease. You had kids, you had grown-up people really suffering from it, and the industry didn't do anything as long as the consumer got the jeans, right? That was one aspect. The other aspect was when I got to see the amount of wastewater that was generated, not just from the tanning industry, but any textile industry, because everything that you see here is all colored and all of it is dyed. And it's all synthetic dyes, and everything is detrimental to the environment. That's when I decided to use fashion as activism and see how we could get a message across, penetrate through art where science couldn't even explain, right? And that led me to work with the United Nations in 2019, where we had the Climate Week. I had this set of garments that spoke about life underwater, life above water, what happens behind the scenes, how we could, as consumers, help abate climate change and make this world a better place. So right now, as a continuum of my work, I do a lot of work with the United Nations. I've started using my profession as a tool, not just for climate action, but also for peace, because I believe that if we have climate change that's happening, you will have unrest. Now, these two subjects are always looked upon as very separate subjects, climate change and peace, but nobody realizes that these are really inextricable, they're really connected. If we don't have water, and if you have countries fighting for water, there's going to be war. And until and unless we inculcate the positive mindset in people like you who are going to be our future leaders, it is the only way forward. So that's where I am right now, and this is what I do. And thank you so much for listening.
Does anybody have questions for Runa before we jump to Becky?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I think she kept telling me this because probably I was 12, 13, and you had a turning point where you could kind of choose which career path you wanted to go into. But like I said, when things come really easy to you, you ignore it, and you're like, you always want a challenge, right? You don't kind of look at what you're good at, unless and until you have somebody who tells you, you should probably concentrate on this. And when you don't have a choice, when you realize that you're really, really bad at the subject and everyone's doing really well, and you just want to keep up with your friends, it just didn't make sense. So I said, okay, let me kind of go down the path, which was, arts and fashion, and I blossomed. I did really well. I mean, I stuck to that profession. I mean, there were a lot of people who were in the profession and have moved out into other streams, but it really made me think that, yes, I'm glad I chose this. And it's not that, and there's another thing with the profession, right? You don't have to stagnate in it. If you actually look at it, you have different strains that can come out of it. You can go into like fashion writing, fashion journalism, you can go into fashion photography, you can go into making movies, you can go into music. Everything is interconnected. Everything is interconnected, and every profession has that core. So it doesn't mean that you're stuck in being, I'm just a doctor or an engineer. Because even if you look at doctors, you have like an association of physicians here in the US that started because they wanted to speak about nuclear war and how do we save people from, environmental perils. So it doesn't just limit you. In fact, everyone's profession can help you be an extension of yourself to make this place a better world. That's too much. I spoke too much.
You're amazing. I just make movies. Yes, I am Becky. I've been an artist my whole life. I was the sketchbook, the tablet, the art class. Yes, I grew up, my mom was an art teacher for 30 some odd years. She was a coach for 30 some odd years. My dad was an engineer, mechanical engineer. So in our house, we always had the technical and we had the free spirit. And that was just a balance that our whole family came to love. My mom built us a little art room in our basement when I was tiny. We had our own little desk. You could create, you could draw on your walls. She would teach pottery classes. We had a kiln in our basement. So art was always in our world. Sports was always in our world. And I just grew up that way. So since middle school, all I ever wanted was to be a Disney animator. That was it. I'm probably one of the few people I actually know that truly, they only wanted one thing and it was that or bust. Most people will kind of find their way through many tangents to find a career, and that is totally okay. But for me, it was animation. That's it. I loved the idea of bringing things to life. I love to draw. I don't draw a ton now in my profession, to be honest. Our animation is 3D, so it's kind of like digital puppeteering. Anyway, so I came up through high school, big artist. I ended up getting the opportunity to play basketball in college. That was wonderful. It was at an art school. I went to the Savannah College of Art and Design. You've heard of that. I did more traditional animation and computer art in my undergrad. I got a minor in drawing, and then I ended up going back and getting my master's in 3D character animation. So now, what does an animator do? I just do acting at Pixar. I did get the opportunity when I was in grad school. I did get to go to Activision, actually. I worked at Neversoft, who made Guitar Hero 3. Then I had hopped over to Blue Sky Studios. We made Horton Hears a Who. And then Pixar picked me up as an intern in 2008. So I came in, it was a classroom-based environment. You're taught their proprietary software. You are taught the values that make a Pixarian, meaning why we do what we do. We always talk about the why. It's not just can you make something move, it's who is this character? How are they emoting? What matters to them? What is the story? And you create these performances. We are actors that act through our puppets on screen. I don't write the story. I don't design the characters. I don't light the scene. I don't do the physics, okay? I don't do the fire, the water, simulations. But everything you see as far as performance, that's what an animator does. So my day-to-day, I will get cast a run of shots. So a feature film is broken down into about 20 or 30 pieces. These are called sequences. Within these sequences are like-minded shots, okay? So I will get cast anywhere from 6 to 10 shots at once. I will be able to hear the audio in my shot. Audio comes first, it doesn't get dubbed over later. Okay, I will see there's been a puppet placed in my scene, so I'll have a camera angle, and I'll be able to hear what's happening. I'll be able to hear the performance. Then the director will sit down and talk to me about what he or she expects for performance and emotion. Okay, these two characters are having a moment. This is how they feel. This is the backstory. This is the subtext. This is what we're trying to get out of your scenes. And then every single muscle movement, blink, everything you see on screen, an animator has to create from scratch. How they walk, how they talk, their mannerisms, their gestures, all of those performance pieces, the choreography of what you see on screen, an animator does. Once that gets finalized, it goes downstream, the scene gets lit, we'll add dust, fire, and any particle effects that happen after. It'll get rendered, soundtrack, boom, you got a feature film. So, yes, that's all I've ever wanted to do. And actually, I had a very influential mom. She used to tell me, and many people in your life will discourage you from art because people will assume it doesn't pay and you can't have a career and that you're just, I don't know, a freak if you're an artist. Well, you're original and you're unique and you're wanted and you're needed in our industry. And whether you go into games or you go into fashion or you go into feature film, you are something special that can bring a really amazing essence to what we do in our industry. So, my mom used to say, someone's gonna get your dream job, Becky. It might as well be you. She always said that to me. Someone's gonna get your dream gig. It might as well be you. And if you believe in yourself, you will get there. I've never met anyone who didn't get there if they didn't stop trying. That doesn't mean right off the gate you get the dream job. Maybe you hop and do a couple side gigs. But you have to believe in yourself. And the naysayers who say it's easy, just go into this, go into that. There's tons of accounting jobs. There's all these other things. Yeah, fine. But how about you chase happiness? And how about you chase the job that you want? Where every day you can spend your days feeling fulfilled and happy. Thinking, I can't even believe I get paid to do this.
Wow. Ooh, as an adult. Questions?
What's your favorite coolest thing you've worked on?
Oh man, there's been many. Well, I would probably say at this point, Finding Dory. I animated Destiny for 9 months. So I got to create 80% of her performance on screen. And a part of when you get on a show super early, you get to meet a lot of the actors. A lot of people come to our studio. We're very lucky. So I remember meeting Kit Olsen. She talks super, super fast. And here I am animating a whale shark, which is huge, and the mouth is huge, and I have to do this sync that's like, you know, she talks so fast. And there's always a moment where you get to do a test shot for them. You get to show the actor or actress. You get to show them their character, right? Because they don't know. They go into these sound rooms and they're pitched this story and they read, you know, this script and they record this voice. But as far as like what that character becomes on screen, it really has nothing to do with them. So she came to, I was working in a shed at the time. My office was a shed. And she came in and I got to show her, I created a performance with her character and she just sat there completely stunned. And she couldn't believe that her voice was coming out of this whale shark, and I couldn't believe her voice was coming out of her when I had been staring at the whale shark the whole time. But it's a total privilege to do what we do. We get to meet so many fabulous people, and our art goes out to the world. You know, these films get seen by billions of people, and that is not lost on me. And I just, you know, what I get to do in my own little bubble and create these happy little moments, and the fact that it goes out there, and I go to Disneyland or I walk down the street and I see like a Toy Story shirt. You know, I was a lead on Toy Story 4, we recreated Bo Peep. And I remember seeing all these little girls with Bo Peep shirts, and like we have a blanket at home, and it's like, that was my pose, that was my shot. You know, you go to the theme parks and you see the parades and they're showing animation, it's like, that's my shot. It's totally surreal. Yeah, so.
Any other questions? So maybe, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, towards art, do the art. Do the art, do it. Unabashedly do it, okay? And if that's fashion, if that's drawing, if that's sculpture, if that's painting, do it. Every time you do it, you're gonna get better and better and better. And as you build your craft, your journey will illuminate itself. Right? You will drift into places following your passion. And hopefully there'll be opportunity there. And as you build on opportunity, that's when, you know, the luck, what is it? The luck goes to the prepared or something. It's, you know, if you're doing your thing, eventually a door will open, right? Because all of us who have gotten places, it is our job to open doors for other people, right? And we will do that. We will see someone young and talented and we will invest in them. So do the art. Yeah, do the art. Yeah, go ahead.
Any other questions? Maybe you guys can share a little bit about your education background. Your junior college, 4-year university, master's, talk a little bit about that.
Sure, yeah. So I think I mentioned that I loved film, I love entertainment, I loved acting when I was young, and I was good at math and computers. And so for me, it was like, do I do drama or do I do computers? And so I tried to do both, but that didn't quite work out at the time. So I I got a bachelor's in computer science and math. But like I said, I took classes in film, I took classes in acting. And just kind of, it's interesting what Becky's saying, because I just did acting on the side. So I got a bachelor's degree, did not get a master's degree, but I took lots of acting classes on the side. I realized that I actually like voiceover more than acting, so I did voiceover for about 10 years, just kind of on the side, because it brought me joy and gave me energy. And so I'll just add, you think maybe, how is this going to add to my career? How is this should I stay on the one track, right? And it turns out that in my job, in what I do in video games and the types of things that I make, I have to do a lot of presentations. I have to sometimes get on a stage and there's thousands of people in the audience and it's live streamed to millions of people. And that's terrifying, but I had preparation for it. So I was like, oh, okay, I know how to do this. I've taken classes in this. I've practiced being on a stage. I've just done it over and over and over again, right? So it all kind of adds up and it works out.
I think I already spoke a lot about my education, but to add to it, I think in the fashion industry, it's not just being creative. You need to also learn how to sell what you make. And it also has to be environmentally viable. So you have to know how to communicate to the consumer by getting the right product out, by not greenwashing. By greenwashing, I mean not giving the wrong marketing ideas, but being truthful, being transparent, and at the same time ensuring that the other designers kind of follow your path. So yes, I do believe that marketing is important. You need to know how to get production done. If you come into the fashion industry, I would suggest that everyone looks into each and every way that the garment is actually produced. And if you could mitigate any sort of climate change that could happen or carbon footprint that is either generated because of your dyeing industry or the machines being used or the way you're printing your fabric, I would love to have you explore that. And the one way you can explore this is going really back into ancient times and see how people actually produce and make clothes, even when it comes to dyeing and weaving. So yeah, so this was something that I kind of learned on the way, and like you said, everything you learn doesn't go to waste. It all comes together, and you realize that it's so magical because your profession, like I said, has so many arms, and you can just start, it can be like an orchestra for you. So yeah.
Yes, I did go to a traditional art school. As I said, I went to SCAD. At the time when I was leaving high school, I was looking to play sports. It was my dream to always be the athlete and the artist combo. It was a rare find, but I knew that it existed out there somewhere. And I grew up in New England, and a lot of the colleges that recruited me around there, they would have one art room or a really small program or animation in its infancy. And I really just wanted to go somewhere where I didn't have to be this pioneer to reinvent something. I wanted to go on a beaten path. I wanted to go to a huge art school where I felt like these are my people and I could just absolutely indulge in art, in lots of different types of art. I wanted animation, but I think it's really important, even if you just want to do one thing, to try different things in peripheral to what you do. For example, I learned lighting, I learned rigging, I learned how to build sets. I don't ever want to do that ever again. But I'm really glad I took those classes, because now when I work at Pixar and I see these incredible set artists and I see these incredible digital seamstress in the computer, or physics majors, or we have tons of scientists, tons of engineers that I work with. I don't have to do their job to completely respect their part of this puzzle. So I went to SCAD, I played basketball, I was super lucky they had a team there. We would go off to tournaments, and we're talking about 20 women with their art stuff with them. We would travel all around the country playing ball, and we had people with portfolios. We had fashion designers, we had fibers artists, we had painters, we had animators. It was incredible. Like, what a feeling to be around your people. Everyone there wants to create art. So yeah, I did undergrad, I got my master's after that. And yeah, so mine was definitely more traditional. I sought out internships, I sought out opportunity within the industry, and I kind of would take any gig. I would rely on networking and alumni. If I knew someone who went to SCAD, friend of a friend of a friend, and they were plugged into some job, some game studio, some feature studio, you bet I was finding their email. Hey, can you look at my stuff? Hey, I just did this piece, will you give me feedback? Okay, you find people that are better than you, and you latch on. Because if you are in an environment where everybody around you is better than you, you have no choice but to get better. And that's how you see what you don't see in your work. There's people that have a more refined eye, that have done this longer, and you find them. Try not to get intimidated by talent around you. Try to be attracted to that talent, okay? Because that is what will be your next step when they bleed off on you. And all their talent rubs off on you, and you can start to subconsciously understand and see what they see.
Questions from the room?
Am I allowed to ask a question?
Only if there isn't one from the kids.
Oh, kids, you're first.
Any questions from the room? This is an amazing opportunity. I learned so much. I'm sure you guys have too. Yes, go ahead. So, what's the difference to get jobs I'm sorry. Was it difficult to get the jobs you currently have?
Difficult to get the job. Well, It's interesting, because you don't just sort of fall into 30 years later, right? I think I looked at every opportunity as just like a golden time to go, hey, can I do this? Is this something that makes me want to wake up every morning? And even if it sounds really, really hard, and even if I've never done it before, I'll try, you know? Why not me? I think was one of the things brought up, why not me? And so, so I would say the hard part is doing the work to get there, right? Being great every single day, and working hard, and then opportunities will open up, right? Because you're asking the person, you're getting the email, you're doing the work, you're showing what you can do. So then things become available, and it's up to you to go, all right, I'm super scared, but I'm going to do it anyway, and I'm going to try. So yeah, the paths just kind of, you get there. Mine was a little more kooky. I did a bunch of different things, and so it ended up, I found these opportunities where I was typically on the kind of the edge of technology, doing really kind of new things. So every time I get scared and it's hard, and I'm like, why not me? Okay.
Well, I'm just wondering, when you go back to high school, right, where you were in high school, what did you know what you wanted to do in high school, or what would you recommend that kids do when they're in high school to kind of help them get on that path that they're interested in?
Great question. You can get good at anything, okay? Listen, I wasn't a great animator in undergrad. I was a good student. I was really good at getting that A because I worked hard. You put your time in, right? At this level, you might be doing a lot of things for a lot of other people, right? You do your homework for your teachers, your parents are pushing you, and all this influence around you. Guess what? You're gonna go to college, it's all for you. You wanna sleep in and miss your class? That's your fault. That's your repercussion. You want to show up and you want to work hard and you want to create and you want to perform and you want to become the next version of you, you benefit from that. That's your life, okay? So take that mantra that you're doing it for you, and it's a pride thing, right? It's an opportunity thing. But second to that, you can get good at anything, right? Again, I wasn't great at animation, but you know what? I was great at basketball at the time, and I was watching this skinny, awkward redhead get up every day and practice for 3.5 hours on my team. Holy moly, I was getting good. Holy moly, I became an All-American. Did I think I could ever do that at high school? No. But that became my thing, and it's like, okay, I want to get better at animation. I need to put myself in the lab every single day and put my time in. You put your time in, and you can get great. You want to learn how to redo your bumper, redo your car, look at YouTube. You want to learn how to make a video game, look at YouTube. Right? There are so many resources out there that if you put your time in and you invest in yourself, you can honestly get good at anything. If you want to be a great chef, look at YouTube. Take a class, put your time in. So whatever you all decide, whether it's art or not, you are going to determine your own success, whether you put the time in. Right? And if you want to do it to please everybody else, that well is going to run dry. You're going to get resentful and sick of it. If you do it for yourself and you feel that inspiration every day, and you're chasing that thing that you really want, that's a lifelong thing. That well never goes dry.
Do you have questions? I feel like who had the question over here? You want to go for it?
What is the most difficult or maybe even frustrating part of each of your jobs, and how do you work past that?
That's the 2-minute go back to your
Oh, that's a 3 minute? That's a great question. What was the most frustrating?
What's the most difficult part, and how do you work past it?
What's the most difficult part, and how do you work past that in your jobs?
Wow.
In a minute.
Oh, wow. No, that's difficult. That's definitely difficult. I don't think every job is easy. You definitely have to, like you said, work for it. But as a human being, I think we are all blessed with certain traits, right? And you can get over any sort of hurdle that comes your way. Being persistent, being consistent, being hardworking and hustling. And then I don't think there's any barrier that you can, put down. So if you have these qualities, there's no way that you could ever fail. Yeah.
Good stuff. Yeah, I think for me, just generally my whole career, it's when people underestimate you. It's when people think, oh, you're the engineer, or they just don't even talk to you because they assume that you're not the engineer, or you're not the person in charge, or you're not the person with the vision, because somehow it's surprising to them that you're not like the model of what they think you should be. And so the hardest part is not letting their assumptions of what you're capable of dictate what you think you're capable of, and really pushing through that. That's probably been the hardest part.
You two can just drop the mic, that's great.
Okay, I think we're at time, right? I'm looking at, yeah. Thank you so much. You guys give them a round of applause.